Good evening and great games at your table. I'm Jonathan Albin and this is NycosRPG. Tonight we're going to be taking a bit of time and putting a spotlight square on the first of the NycosRPG games volumes. That's right, we actually have in hand the Masterbook. I've been talking about this off and on for the better part of a year, and we finally have gotten the pre-release version printed up. Now, this is 177 pages of pure text. There's no pictures in it yet because I've built it specifically for speed, built it for ease of use, and wanted to get it out as far as it was concerned as quickly as possible. So as we build towards the Kickstarter, of course, we'll be looking for particular art to put into the book. But I am of several minds about it, and I hope that I can get some feedback from you, the viewers, about which way you would like to see this art go in terms of production. Not only in terms of image, but also in terms of style and density. At 177 pages of just text, the concept of putting a lot of art in it is impractical, but we will see how that goes depending on what the Kickstarter's processes will bring us. I have not done a Kickstarter directly in a really long time. I helped one of the first ones when Kickstarter first came out, but that was a really long time ago, and I was assisting in helping the advancement of a motion picture. So we will see how this works in terms of the property. But this is what we're going to be looking at today, the Masterbook and all of the wonders of the NycosRPG system.
Absorbing damage is the name of your game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame, or strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Okay, so the Masterbook, as we've been talking about, is, as the saying goes, chock full of goodness. This has every element covered in terms of what you as a storyteller, what the storyteller might need, and it also has everything that a player will want to build out their persona, be prepared to run an adventure. Now, this manual doesn't cover any of the particulars of any particular genre, but fundamentally covers in detail all the different core mechanics that will be used regardless of which of the system books you decide to pair it with. One of the advantages of this is that if you have this book in your hands, you'll be able to run games right from the get-go. You don't have to wait around for the genre books to be specific, but in other words, you can start building immediately as soon as you get this, in terms of building out the different communities and environments that you want to have in your role-play game, even before you have your fingers, so to speak, on any of the system books. So if you're looking at an economic way to begin role-playing, this is your optimal target. It has I'll let you look at the retail links that I'll put below. But by the way, before we go too much further, make sure that you go down below and press all the buttons so that the algorithm will know that you're part of our audience. But the idea here is that we are talking about one volume to do everything you need, from being a player to being a storyteller and all of the other pieces of it as well. Now, in particular, this has got a great introduction to tabletop role-playing games. It goes into some of the reasons why a person might play a role-play game, but it also provides the quick and dirty version. It has the quick play rules built directly into it, and if you're interested in looking at those right away, you can go to NycosRPG.com, go to the Play Now section, and in the bottom half there is a place where you can actually download the Fast Play PDF. It's about 11 pages, which is still kind of beefy, but it makes sure to cover all of the basics of what you need to be able to play, so that you can go and play test it right now, even before you get a copy of the volume here. The fundamentals of this master book is to give you not only an introduction to the mechanics of a role-play game, but to also provide you with the motives, some of the explanations of why and how to run a role-play game, and also even things like how to invite and how to host such an event. Now, the master book does cover the main mechanics, and in terms of the main mechanics, we're talking about the basic 4 ways of resolving conflict. Now, conflict in a role-play game, of course, is essential. You need the pressure of action and the pressure of drama to drive the story forward. And so in every category, you have understandings of how how skills checks will work, how you can face a challenge, and why there's a difference between a check and a challenge. There's also information on how to handle physical conflicts that are contests in nature. In other words, they're you versus an opponent on specific skills basis. But then there's also the comparisons known as the conflicts. So the conflicts and the contests are slightly different. Contests are using the same skill, both of you rolling against it to see who is more successful in that endeavor. And then the conflicts are when one person is using a skill that is pretty much the antithesis of the other. So, for example, if you are in a pursuit, one person is the person who is attempting to evade pursuit, and the other one is the pursuer. And therefore, you're rolling against different skills, but it's still the relative value of the successes that determine how near or far you are from your opponent. This allows for such drama as a card chase, for example, to happen in the theater of the mind as you are perceptually getting nearer or farther from your pursuing target as you go. And of course, the dynamics of transitioning from one set of skills checks to another are really elemental in determining the scenes and the settings within the game. So these are all covered in the master book, despite actually not having the mechanics of the car chase. You still have the idea of chase and capture of pursuit, and that kind of elemental differentiation. Now, these fundamentals also have to deal with the concept of persona. Now, when you're building a persona, the basics of the Nykos mechanism is that you have to fill out your base, which is your numeric core of your persona. Then you've got your race, which is the species that you're choosing to play. And in many of the NycosRPG mechanisms, you really have fundamentally 2 choices. One is to play within one race, which is the mortals, and you share fundamentally the majority of your skills with your opponents. Or you can play in a fantasy setting that is parallel, so therefore you can play in the Nykos realm, so to speak, the fantasy realm, in also the setting. So therefore it will have some of the elements of the fantasy setting, such as varying species. So generally you have between 6 and 8 potential species in any of the genre books, provided you are playing within the realm of the fantasy element. But if you're playing in the element of the, quote, true crime or the modern realms, then there's just the one species of mortal, and that's the only choice you really have. And there is some variance, but that is not associated with anything other than the die rolls that you made to build the persona in the first place. Then beyond the base and the race, you also have your place, and your place is referring to your, actually I said that wrong, your estates. And your estates are not only your motive for why you are pursuing the adventuring lifestyle, but also your culture and how you came to be where you are. And those actually afford you a little bit more deep differentiation between your persona and every other in the game, and so therefore you are able to build something that is much more customized to you. The next, of course, is the ways, and the ways cover all of the potential skills. Now, in the master book, the skills list is by far not exhaustive, but it is fairly complete. That is, it covers many of the potential paths of advancement you might consider in a basic role-play game, but these are then enhanced by the various system books based on which particular genre of story that you as a game master are trying to tell. So the master book is your basis, and it does provide a fairly comprehensive list of skills, but under the ways. But the ways here are just a shadow of what's available in the other system books. And finally, beyond the ways, you also have your stuff. So the stuff that you have is, in this case, is a very general list of possible things you might have. It's akin sort of to the concept of a survival game in that the listing is fairly rudimentary, but it does give an idea of what kinds of things you might have in a general role-play game, regardless of what other genre you may tack on. And therefore, the stuff list for the basic game, the master book elements cover the majority of the bases that you might want to carry. And then the system books actually provide you the enhanced, unique skills and materials lists that would apply to those particular story themes. Now, the master book also has a fairly extensive amount of material about how stuff works. And by that, the materials that a persona might run into, find, discover, purchase, they all have fundamentally different numeric values. You will have a trade value, of which the item will generally be able to be converted into other mediums, whether that be a cash medium or a trade medium or whatever. But in addition to that, you'll also have a quality value, and that quality value will determine how easy it is for the item to be broken, how easy the item is to be enhanced in value. You'll have the ability to repair your items and how that works in, as well as how you can break other people's stuff. So it's a fairly concise and I would dare say elegant way of handling materials so that the player will feel the value of what they own and take ownership of it in a way that will enhance their role play experience as well. Now, beyond this, of course, you have the elegance of advancement by design. One of the biggest challenges in role-play games is the onus upon the game master or storyteller to provide direction to the players on how and when they can advance their personas. And this was always a problem when I was a storyteller and game master for the more classic role-play games like Dungeons and Dragons, in that you are, by default, taking responsibility for the advancement of the players in your game. And fundamentally, if you don't allow them or permit them to advance at a way that feels comfortable to them or whatever, you end up hurting yourself because they lean on you as a director to provide them with the outlines of when and how they will advance. And I've always felt that was a little bit too on point. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of properties that came out in the period of the second edition into the third and even fourth editions of Dungeons and Dragons that really tried to put a kibosh on player self-agency, and instead left it in the hands of the game masters to control and manipulate their advancement. And the Nycos system completely does away with that and provides direct promotion of the players' characters in the directions they wish to move instantaneously through the game by using the method of advancement that NycosRPG fosters. And that is, each time you use a skill in-game, it obviously meant something important to you, and therefore whether you succeed or fail, you endeavor to increase it by 1 point per session. So thereby you can build the character in the direction you want to and accomplish what you are wanting to do with your persona week over week instantaneously, and the game master doesn't have any manipulation or control of that other than the opportunities he provides. Now, this is probably one of the most unsung portions of the master book, and that is in the first section we have the discussion of the CIS, the Community Identity Sheet, and how a game master can utilize that one page to build out not only the particulars of the event that he's hosting for that day, but also to build a community around it so that the availability of items, the ability to find someone who can tutor you, the ability to find resources are all built into the mechanism simply by a series of dice rolls that the game master makes. And this can be as random as he or she chooses, or they can actually put a value in particular for these numbers, and therefore provide a driver for what's valuable in a community and how they were going to handle the various conflicts that the player characters kind of foist on them by their actions. So it gives an idea of how dedicated the local authorities are, how strict the local magistrates will be, what kind of penalties there are going to be for player misaction within the community, and so on. And by doing so, by having these CIS numbers already predetermined, the players can then decide how they want to interact with the local community and what their purposes are in that community in terms of their progress towards the conclusion of whatever story the game master has developed. This is all done, therefore, with fundamentally a one sheet that the game master creates, and it takes about as much time in reality as the players require to build a persona. So it's a nice little trade-off, and it also means that a dedicated games group who gets together to play the first time, the game master has as little obligation to the game as the players in terms of what he has to do in order to cause the game to run, and then he will have a mechanical device there, the persona, the character identity sheet, that acts as the community's or the adventure's persona in determining outcomes, so that he's no longer having to be imaginatively creating everything on his own, but rather can utilize these new tools to derive the story on the fly so that the players can engage with the world right from their very first session. Now, the upshot of all of this is that the NycosRPG system in its entirety is now available. The links are going to be down below on how to get a hold of it. You can find out more information at NycosRPG.com, which includes the persona sheets, which are a packet download for free, as well as the fast play and also the community information sheet for the game masters and the storytellers to start right off the bat building out their communities and the cultures of their individual settings, so that they will have all the numbers necessary to resolve the conflicts that they have with the players right from the get-go. For more information on this, do check out my YouTube channel at NycosRPG, which is where you've probably seen this video, and follow the playlist about the NycosRPG game system. There are, I think, 17 or 20 videos there that will bring you up to speed on what the entire NycosRPG mechanism entails, including the nitty-gritty on the dice rolling mechanism, as well as the concepts of the ramp. Alrighty, we are going to get out of here. I want to thank you for being here. Remember, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. and 11 p.m., all Pacific times, and we endeavor to bring you the utmost in information to make your games great and to make your sessions make sense. Alrighty, I'm Jonathan, and as my grandfather would say, I think you really need to go play.